Oh, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what's going on? This is Jeff Hartman of Behind the Steel Curtain, and it's time for another episode of the Steelers Preview. Joining me, as always, Dave Schofield. What's up, Dave?
Not too much other than excited to get back to a weekend that includes Steelers football.
Yes, the Steelers are back week 10. New Orleans Saints, Acrisure Stadium. Dave will be in attendance. Yes, that's still a go, right?
That's still the plan. I'm still in a walking boot. I don't care if I have to go to the stadium in a walking boot, as long as I can at least function in a walking boot. As long as that's the case, I will be there. I'm taking my son. Big Brosco will be there with his son, Kyle, as most people know him, anyone who watches our show. So we will be there. And if we are there, I'll make sure I at least do one short live broadcast while we're there, at least one.
Yeah, for sure. Bryan Anthony Davis is on. He's going to be on the show. He is currently, as he calls it, on assignment. He'll be joining us shortly. But, Dave, and I don't know if Big Bro Rich will be a part of that video, but if you are going to the game this Sunday, it's been a while since they've played in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
If you're going to the game, hit him up on Twitter. It's the longest Twitter handle you can think of, but still hit him up. Go say hello, get a photo or something. He'll
be on the show.
Yeah,
be on the show. That's what we
sure.
want. We want, if anyone's going to be there, come be with us live. That's what we would like more than anything.
Absolutely. Yeah, that I think that would be really cool to meet people that listen to the podcast and stuff like that. So go do that. That's for sure. So I want to ask you, Dave, before Bryan comes in and we start talking about the news and stuff, what's your vibe right now heading into week 10? Coming off a bye week, Saints head home, not favored still. What do you think?
It has everything to do with me being in attendance. Last year, I told this story on Scobro Show, but I'll do it here anyway. Last year, when I took my son to his first game, Rich was also at the game. Kyle was at the game. We traveled up together. And it was kind of the Steelers get-right game. It's when they got back on track when they played the Broncos. And I just had that feeling that the Steelers were getting back on track. We were going to go up there. We were going to have a good time. And that's what we were going to feel leaving the stadium. All because we're going with the same group again. And this is the first time that the Steelers have faced a team that didn't have a winning record at the time they played them, since week 4 in the Jets, who have now gone on to have a winning record. That's how long it's been. The Steelers have had a rough stretch of games. They're facing a team that's only 3-6. So therefore, I'm not saying that the Steelers will definitely win. I think it's a very winnable game for them. And I think this is one that could get them back on track. That's the vibe I feel. That's just the feeling I have for going at the game. That's the best I can say it.
Yeah, to me, there is hope. I want to be hopeful, but my gosh, they have to do something. My Friday Let's Ride podcast is titled "Where is the Potential?" I always talk about the dangerous P word. You have to do something well to have any type of potential, and they don't do anything well. If you listen to Dave's Stat Geek podcast, I'm driving to work listening to it, and I'm like, man, he is literally, I think he's going through every single potential stat on Pro Football Reference. I mean, he's trying to find anything.
Stats I'd never looked at before.
He's trying to find like the little tiny crumbs. Like maybe the offense is good at this one thing, like tying their shoes correctly the first time. And not even that. Nothing. And yes, Pro Football Reference keeps track of that. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah.
So
that was disheartening. It was,
the least.
But you know what? At least you found things they could improve on. That's how I had to go with it.
Everything.
Yeah, they can improve on everything. But I was surprised. I don't know about you. I'm going to ask you this. I was surprised at how much the running game was different from last year. In last year, the Steelers hardly had any yards before contact, and then they had some decent yardage after contact. This year, it's the opposite. They're middle of the road running-wise in yards before contact, but they are terrible at yards after contact this year.
Yeah, it's definitely a strange dynamic and turn of events, if you want to put it that way. But yeah, my dad used to always say, whenever we talked about sports or whatever, what do you hang your hat on? What do you hang your hat? What's that one thing you do well? And
it was sack the quarterback. That has
I mean, even go to the defense, because I think everyone naturally looks at offense and says, "Oh, well, this offense does nothing well." No, they don't. They don't do anything well. But defensively, even without T.J. Watt, there's nothing there that they do exponentially well either. So I just think that this is a clean slate. Like, this is a clean slate. My fear, if we're talking about the upcoming game, is that the offense comes out and looks the exact same. That
Yeah. Yeah.
might be a-
I don't know why after 2 weeks, I think it's going to look. I'm not looking for vast, huge improvements, but I expect it to at least be a little bit better. I mean, I expect, Kenny Pickett with the extra time and the effort that he puts in, that he's going to at least look a little bit improved, which will trickle down to everybody else. Whether or
Well,
not that happens remains to be seen.
this has to be a situation where over the bye week, Kenny Pickett had a chance to really sit down with the offensive coaching staff. And let's be honest, the playbook that was constructed, yes, it's Matt Canada's playbook, but it was tailored towards Mitch Trubisky to start the season.
Mhm.
And so a lot of changes might not have been able to have been made at that time in week 4 when he goes in at halftime, and then even after that. Yes, you have the mini bye after the week 3 game against the Browns, but Mitch Trubisky started in week 4, so that doesn't even matter. I feel like this would be the week that if Kenny Pickett could sit down and say, look, I know that you all like this package with Mitch, but we can't run it. It doesn't work. Let's toss it out. And, the more I read, like I finished Bill Cowher's book. I listened to Ben Roethlisberger the last time they had a football episode, because he actually spoke about the offensive coordinator and the play calling and how the quarterback and coordinator work together. It was actually really interesting stuff. They throw stuff out all the time. Hopefully they threw out some stuff that is, as KT Smith said on our website, is dead plays. The plays that are dead before they even start. Give Kenny Pickett the freedom to be able to do some of the things to counteract that. I just hope that I want to see something different. That's all. And, even Mike Tomlin on Tuesday during his press conference, they asked, what is the offense doing well? I really feel like he kind of stretched it a little bit to say, well, we're moving Kenny Pickett out of the pocket, the launch point, blah, blah, blah. I was like, man, that's a fancy way of saying we're not doing much well right now. So,
and honestly, it's something that they didn't do last year.
No.
Because that wasn't the quarterback that they had.
Right.
So,
well, let me ask you this. So if you're trying to, it's a clean slate. We know this.
Yeah.
You're trying to put something together for the second half. Like, we're going to put all our energy, all our focus into this one thing on offense that we're going to try and do well, at least attempt. What is that?
Everything in offense to try to do well.
It's just going to be your focus. Okay. We don't do anything great
what
right
I
now.
would do or what I think they're going to do.
We could do both.
What I would like them to focus on is utilizing the middle of the field even more, especially with Pat Freiermuth and everything. I would like to see that. And honestly, I would like to see more play action.
All right. We welcome Bryan Davis to the show. What's up, Bryan?
Guys, I've got to be honest with you. Thanks for being patient with me for the last 8 minutes. But when you've got Carolina, Atlanta on, it's hard to get pulled away.
That 3-0 barn burner right now.
Yeah.
Jeez. Thanks. Okay. Well, Bryan, welcome to the show. What we're talking about right now, as we were just kind of waiting for you to join us, was the fear of seeing the offense looking the same on Sunday. And that is for me, that's a legitimate fear, is that they've had this extra time. They've made some changes from the roster. And then what are you going to do? And it's the exact same. So, Bryan, considering the fact they do nothing well, if you were to focus on one thing and you're going to try and say, okay, we're going to put all our eggs in this basket and try to see if we can do this well in the second half, what would that thing be for you?
It's easy to say run the football, but no, pass downfield and open it up for me.
Yeah, when I think it was our own KT Smith shared that tweet in our Slack channel that said the longest scoring play for the Steelers this year is 8 yards.
8
yards.
There's more to that.
Okay.
Just look back at the Philadelphia game. What happens when, the Steelers defense has been known as the bend but don't break defense, right? Because when you get inside the red zone, you have less field behind you to defend. As the team gets closer to the goal line, you're not having to worry about everything behind you. You're shortening the field, and it actually makes it easier to defend. That's what the Steelers do on defense. So, but they're not taking advantage of that on offense. It's like you're not equating what you do on defense to what you need to do on offense. Is that when you get down inside the 10-yard line, guess what? Now the team's only defending 20 yards or less of the field because there's only 10 yards in the touchdown zone. So sometimes you need to take that shot for a little bit further out. And notice that's what the Eagles were doing. And that's where they were scoring the points in the Steelers. I think the Eagles had the philosophy going in as we don't want to move into the red zone. We want to take our shot from outside the red zone because once we get in there, the Steelers are going to be more efficient.
Yeah, the big play is not a part of the Steelers' offense right now. And everyone knows, well, they just got to throw it deep. But that's not always the answer. I mean, you have to dial it up the right way. You've got to find the good matchup. You got to have the route running to match. It's going to be interesting. We're going to talk about that a lot, as well as how the Steelers are going to be able to plan around this upcoming Saints team with the injury report and all that. But I want to get to some news first that happened today on Thursday, and that was the fact that, well, the move we thought was coming once the Steelers signed Matthew Wright to their 53-man roster, which was Chris Boswell, went on injured reserve. And to fill that spot, they elevated DeMonte KZ. Now, they did not elevate TJ Watt yet. That's the key word, yet. They have time. Don't worry. But KZ is back. I want to ask your take on both Boswell going to IR and KZ returning. Dave, we'll start with you.
There was zero surprises here.
Yeah.
And some people are like, oh, but they didn't bring what? Still zero surprises. KZ had to be activated today or tomorrow. End of story. That was the end of his 21-day window. They couldn't wait until the Saturday 4:00 deadline. And if you knew Boswell was going on IR, that was one you knew for sure. You'd already brought in the other kicker. It didn't matter if you waited for Saturday for Boswell either. So you make that move now because it makes sense. Does it mean TJ Watt's not being activated? No, they still have until Saturday at 4. But TJ Watt's 21-day window isn't over until next week. So they didn't have to do it yet. So to me, I almost feel like I'm not going to be shocked if it's another IR move. Someone like, Ahkello Witherspoon's was out for what, 3 or 4 weeks, comes back for half a game, gets benched or injured. They never really said which it was. And then he hasn't practiced for 2 days. I would not be shocked if that's the move to put Witherspoon on IR, but they didn't need to rush it. They didn't need to show their hand yet of what's going on. But that move today, we knew it was coming. We just didn't know if they would announce it today or tomorrow.
And Kathy Forhead asks, is this 4-week injured reserve? If they go on IR, it's the earliest they can come back is after 4 weeks. It could be a season-ending injured reserve, depending on what happens. Let's say Chris Boswell requires surgery on his groin. He could be out for the year. He's still on the same IR. But after 4 weeks, if he's healthy enough, he could return. Bryan, what do you think about the moves that were made on Thursday?
You're absolutely correct. When it comes to DeMonte KZ, you have to do it. And the big question is, how bad is Chris Boswell right now? Well, his dad's concerned. He's putting out tweets about it. And, and how they're looking at everything as far as this goes with Chris. I don't know if I have felt like Chris has been right all year. I don't think that he's been bad at all. I think he's been good. I don't think he is top shelf Chris Boswell. So I wonder how long this has been lingering. He's in no way, shape, or form 2018 bad Chris Boswell. And we know that something was going on there. So I'm wondering if he was trying to work through a few things as far as that injury goes. With Matthew Wright coming in, you have a guy that has if you look at his stats right now, you might get concerned because he's a 75% kicker, but that's 3 of 4. And he's kicking a lot. He had a 59-yarder. And last year he had, I believe, 4 out of 6 from 50 plus. So the guy can kick. He's done well for the Steelers. I think he's a guy that you could rely on. I almost feel like he's that kind of player that is probably the top of the reserve kickers. He's the guy that you bring in. So if Boswell comes back in a couple weeks, say he comes back in 4 weeks, You know that you have Matthew Wright going. You might see Matthew Wright in another uniform like he was with the Chiefs earlier on the year when Harrison Butker was gone. So he's one of those guys that you can trust. You lose a lot because Chris Boswell is one of the greatest of all time statistically. But you bring in a guy like Wright, you can feel like you don't have to do what they did in 2020 and lose a game against the Washington football game for their first loss of the year because they don't trust a kicker.
Very good.
Which
point.
was Matthew Wright that they didn't trust.
Right.
Yeah.
In 2020. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now
But,
I want to.
they didn't trust him from 46. Wasn't that what it was?
46 or 47.
It was right around there. And he's already hit from 59 this year. To me, it just shows me that he's really grown and been able to expand his range as he's grown as an NFL kicker and kicking basically the whole season for the Jaguars last year. Granted, it was the Jaguars. They ended up, with a pretty high draft pick this year. We'll just say that. So that told you that they weren't having the best season, but still just gaining that experience, I just think has been really good for him.
Now, I want to talk about KZ and his return to the lineup, but to do that properly, I think we need to talk about the injury report first.
Sure.
So, Dave, let's go ahead and run through the Steelers injury report.
All right. The Steelers injury report is, we'll stick just to the Steelers for now so we can talk about KZ. There were 6 players that didn't practice today, but 2 of them were added today, and neither one of them was for injury. One was Cam Hayward. They've been giving him Thursdays off the last few weeks, so he didn't practice, not injury related. And Malik Reed was excused for personal reasons. I don't know what those reasons were. I don't know if it was a Jake Matthews type situation, if you know what's going on with the Falcons tonight. No idea, but it was something for personal reasons, and the Steelers are known to do that. Technically, Chris Boswell was on the injury report because it came out a half hour before the roster move. So he was there as not practicing, but now he won't be on that report anymore. William Jackson III has not practiced the last 2 days. Ahkello Witherspoon has not practiced the last 2 days. Levi Wallace has been a full participant the last 2 days after missing week 8. Christian Kuntz, who they said was possibly going to be limited because of the ribs as their long snapper. He's been full. So that's good. Doesn't look like they have to make a move there. Miles Jack has not participated due to a knee injury either day. And the one piece of good news coming out of the injury report today was Larry Ogunjobi moved from not participating Wednesday to limited on Thursday.
Yeah. The one that scares me the most is Miles Jack. Him not playing. Because here's what I was excited about having DeMonte KZ back in the lineup. More KZ is less Robert Spillane in certain packages, especially third down defense. They could easily have KZ be in the deep half and let Minkah Fitzpatrick roam the middle. He can cover tight ends better, or they could flex Terrell Edmonds down there if they needed to. They would have options. But if Spillane is in there next to Devin Bush, well, at least we saw what that was last year. That's not very good. But Bryan, when you think about all this stuff that's going on with the injury report, what do you think?
Jack does scare me. Absolutely. I like the fact that Ogunjobi's back. I think that the one thing that I'm looking at here, we're concerned because you have William Jackson III with the back with 2 did not practice. You do not really expect him to be in there with that back. And he was brought in because to spell Ahkello Witherspoon, and Ahkello Witherspoon is now on the injured reserve. If I have any silver lining, you had 2 full participant days out of Levi Wallace, and that's a help. And when you look at the fact that they've got 2 receivers, one on the injured reserve, all-world Michael Thomas, and when he's healthy, he's dangerous. He's one of the best in the league. Jarvis Landry is really tough, and I don't know. We'll probably hear when Dave talks about the Saints, but if Jarvis Landry's not in there, then you have some relief from the for the defensive backs as well. But Levi Wallace helps you if he can be back and you can get him full time.
Dave, what were your thoughts on the Steelers injury report?
Yeah, that's it. I don't like to say it this way. Sorry, bad, but this was the concern about spending $2.77 million for the remainder of the season on a player where you basically gave up no draft capital. You just switched the rounds 2 years from now. But for a player that hadn't been available to play because of injury and now hasn't practiced in the first 2 official practices that they've had. Apparently he practiced and was out on the field last week when you don't have to give an injury report or anything like that. But Monday it was reported he did not practice in their bonus practice and hasn't practiced since. This was the only concern, that were you going to make this trade and, not given much draft, but you say, well, they had the cap space this year. Well, that's $2.77 million they could have rolled into next year and could be the difference between re-signing someone like a Cam Sutton. So that's the only concern I had about this trade going forward, whether it be injury or not, or ability, if the Steelers just find that they're never going to be able to use him. Well, what's even worse is if you don't know if you're going to be able to use him because of injury. To me, that makes it tough. It's one thing to find out, maybe this isn't the best fit for the Steelers either, but man, you've got a huge salary next year you've got to make a decision about. And it was supposed to be, 9 games to see what he could do, to see if they'd want to keep him and, bring that number down by signing him longer. You can't do it if he's injured and doesn't even get out there.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. It makes you question a lot of stuff, but we'll see. And this might be a game. Go ahead, Bryan.
And you know what? I'll jump on board with you, Dave, in 2 to 3 weeks if he's still out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know what you mean. It's how you look at it going forward. I'm like, I'll get more excited about this when I actually see how he's going to contribute with the Steelers. And you can't. I'm sorry, it's the old Senquez Golson is a bust because he never contributed because of injury. So you could never even evaluate him because of injury.
All right, Falcons and Panthers are looking pretty good right now.
Well, it's bad optics is what it is.
Yeah.
You bring a guy in and you're expecting him to at least participate and he doesn't even practice. It's a bad look. That's exactly what it is for the Steelers. And maybe he practices Friday. I think that's what Terrell Austin said. They would need him to practice on Friday if he gets the chance. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know.
And think about this. Sometimes when you redo a contract or something with a player, that they take, maybe the reason he was willing to waive those per game bonuses that saved the Steelers some money is that he knew it might take another week until he could come back. Yeah. Maybe that was kind of the trade-off there. Hey, I don't know that I'm going to be ready the next game, but hopefully it'll be soon after that. And so for that reason, we'll just take those off. It doesn't hurt you. Those kind of things. I still think that's why I had said forever last year how restructuring Stephon Tuitt, granted he didn't play at all, was going to be a tough thing because his contract was under the previous collective bargaining agreement, and they were going to have to give him some more money that he would have been paid otherwise, like they had to do with Boswell this year. When he redid his deal, they had to actually give him a separate bonus for this year because of the money he would have lost by redoing his contract that he would have made because it was because of this adding the 17th game. To me, with someone like Tuitt, I think he waived that because he knew he wasn't going to be playing early in the season, and then ended up not playing at all, actually. So sometimes a player will do that, say, you know what, we can work that out because of my availability. It's behind the scenes stuff that we'll never know about.
Yeah. Well, let's look at the Saints injury report. Dave, go ahead.
Oh, okay. The Saints. Let me hold on. Got to click on that tab. Make sure I don't close you guys out and leave. So here we go. Some interesting stuff here. This is just Thursdays. I only do it day by day when I bring it up in the article. Defensive end Marcus Davenport, calf limited. Running back Mark Ingram, the second knee, did not participate. Wide receiver Jarvis Landry, ankle limited. I'm pretty sure he was limited yesterday too, but I can't 100% remember.
He was.
So that's limited.
And Ingram didn't practice all week.
Yep. But then here's another one. Cornerback Marshawn Lattimore, abdomen, did not participate. He didn't play last week. He didn't participate yesterday or today. I think that might be one of the most key players just looking forward. He's huge difference maker on their defense. Their defense is night and day different versus when he's out there and when he's not. I'm not going to say he's as much as a TJ Watt to the Steelers is, but he's that kind of, getting towards that kind of level. All right. Then you got center Eric McCoy, calf, didn't did not practice. Guard Andrus Pete, tricep didn't practice. Tackle Ryan Ramchek. Did I say that right? I don't know if I said that right or not. He was rest/knee limited. Linebacker Pete Werner, ankle, did not practice. Safety Marcus May, abdomen, didn't practice. What's with the abdomen injuries? And defensive end Cameron Jordan was limited because of rest.
Yeah. And Michael Thomas is on injured reserve, I believe.
Yes, he's on IR.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see, Jarvis Landry's limited 2 days in a row, but there's some names on that list. There are some names on that list that are definitely going to hamper the Saints if they can't play. Got to remember, they played on Monday Night Football against Baltimore, very physical game, and then they have to travel on a short week. That does matter. Bryan, but when you hear that Saints report, what do you think?
Wow, they are hampered too. And something we talked about on Here We Go, the Steelers pregame show that will debut tomorrow. They kind of have stuff across the board, and it's where the Steelers have some guys, just right here that's concerned. They've got concerns all over. I think if you had to put these injury reports up against each other, as Steeler fans, you might feel a little more optimistic.
Dave, what were your thoughts on the Saints report?
Yeah, it's kind of that. Well, you were hoping the Steelers would be a little bit more healthy coming out of their bye, especially with they had to play Philly coming out of their bye, and they had nobody. They had nobody with an injury designation going into that game, and you kind of hope, well, yeah, coming out of their bye, you can be the same way. Not so for the Steelers, but then again, my goodness, the Saints. These guys that weren't practicing, I don't know if they can still practice and play on Friday. But remember, they played on Monday night. They're on a short week. So I'm not surprised that they have so many players listed. The big thing is going to be when you look at it tomorrow, when you actually get their status.
Yeah. So keep an eye out for that on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. We'll have all that up there for you. And to answer Steelers Girl 277's question, Andy Dalton is starting for the Saints, at least according to reports this week. So the Red Rifle comes back to Pittsburgh.
The Red Rifle be begun.
All right, y'all ready for some over/under?
Oh,
it's been a
while. Yes, I am.
It's been a couple weeks. So let's
okay.
What's up, Dave? You all right over there?
Oh yeah, no, I'm fine. I was going to say something terribly inappropriate, so I won't.
Probably for the best. All right, let's do our first one.
And your mother watches the show, so I don't want to say that for sure.
I don't know if she's watching now. Okay, Kenny Pickett passing yards. I have it, the line set at 224.8. I'm sorry, 0.5.
0.8?
0.5. 224.5. I can't read my writing.
24.5.
Yes. All right, we'll start with you, Dave. Go ahead.
224.5. I don't know. Let's go over. Let's say around 230, 235 would be a really nice step in the right direction, as long as he doesn't have to throw 60 passes.
Yeah. Bryan, what do you think?
I'm going under. He hasn't shown me yet that he's really going to go that much higher than that yet. So, even with a situation where they were losing pretty bad against the Eagles at one point, we didn't get a lot. So, I want to go over. I'm just going to be cautious and go under.
I'm going to say over, but not by much. I think they're at home. I think that the Steelers offense is going to hopefully look a little bit different and give them some options. I'm going to take the over. The second one, Pat Freiermuth receiving yards, 65.5. Dave, over under.
This might be me going west. I can't say going. That does then the references were. That means this might be having to go west, because my wishful thinking is that I want Pat Freiermuth to really get utilized more, especially with the absence of Chase Claypool. Take advantage of that part of the field. So I'm going to say over. I don't know that it will happen, but it's what I feel the Steelers could do to be successful.
All right, Bryan, what do you think?
I almost think that's their game plan. And, I've been bitten by this before, but when you throw it in his direction, he's going to catch it. He's pretty, I don't want to call him automatic, but he's pretty darn close. I really trust Pat Freiermuth. And if they go that direction, I think they have to. It's going to be over. So I'm going to go ahead and say over.
The number 70 comes to mind. I don't know why. So I'm going to take the over. I think 70, and barring injury, I think 70 yards is where he's going to be around there. And I think that's going to be a good day for our buddy Muth. Let's do Kenny Pickett passing touchdowns. Passing touchdowns, not rushing. Let's set the line at 1.5. Dave, over under.
Oh, I mean, he hasn't ever done it.
Not throwing.
No. But you've got to think at some point he's going to need to. You know what? I'm still going to go under.
All right, Bryan, what do you think?
I'm inclined to go with Dave, but I'm not going to. I'm going to be go west. I'm going to be that king of wishful thinking too, and I'm going to say over.
How bad is it that 2 touchdowns is considered the king of wishful thinking? But I'm going to go. I'm going with 2. I'll take the over. Gosh, I hope.
I want to see him. I would love for this to be his coming out party because I would be there to see it. Right. But
now,
are we calling this total touchdowns?
No, this is just passing.
Passing.
Yeah. Now, a lot of these, like Pat Fryermuth yards, and then the one I'm going to say today, to the next one, are all based on Chase Claypool not being in the picture anymore. So now we go to George Pickens targets. So now we're just talking targets. So passes thrown George Pickens' way. I have the line at 7.5. Dave?
Oh, man. Because I had a number in my head and it was right next to it. I'm thinking, he'll probably have, 7 or 8 might be a good number. And you pull 7.5. I'm going to go under. I'm going to go with 7. That was what my first instinct was. And you know what would be great if all these things is because the Steelers show up and just run the ball like crazy, because they are going up against a defense that is not as good a running defense as what the Steelers even is.
Yeah.
So when people think the Steelers have a bad running defense, they're 16th. They're middle of the road. That's actually the strongest thing they are of anything when it comes to the major breakdowns for the team. So for that reason, maybe the Steelers can run the ball more and they might not be targeting Pickens as much, or other people are going to be open because they're going to try to not let Pickens get going.
All right, Bryan, set it 7.5. George Pickens targets.
Jeff, I think you are a fantastic editor. I think everything you do on the podcasting side is tremendous. But if you were to announce today that you were going to leave for Las Vegas to go ahead and be an odds maker, I'd be like, Jeff, you've got to do it. You're fantastic at this. I'm not trying to wax your car. I'm just saying, man, you're killing me here, because this is like Dave. This is tough.
Yeah.
7.5. My gosh. I think there's going to be a lot of the Steven Sims factor here. That's what's confusing me even more. I have a feeling that Steven Sims is going to get a lot of balls. Man, it just like Ray did last year. But I'm just going to go and put my optimist hat on. I'm going to say that he'll come pretty close to that. So why not over?
I'm going over. I think that they view George Pickens as that big play guy, and they know they need to hit a couple of those big plays. You got to throw it his way for that chance. So I'm going to take the over, but only at probably 8 or 9. I don't think he gets double digits. We'll be shocked.
Yeah, and remember, everyone's talking about Steven Sims. If he gets 3 targets in this game, he will double his season total.
Yeah, I don't see him getting a lot of
He's
play.
been targeted.
I think he'll play.
Yeah, I think he will too. And I'd love to see him get involved. But remember, you're also asking a guy that has 3 targets with 2 receptions for -1 yards on the season to then all of a sudden come in and be something huge. And I don't think relying on that's going to be a good thing. So I might be regretting this George Pickens under, but bad almost talked me out of it, but I'm going to stick with it.
Okay,
that's
so
Bryan.
there's typically one of these out of the 6 that I'm just kind of not so sure about, and the numbers don't necessarily add up, and sometimes it's an easy one, and that's this would be this one. Pittsburgh Steelers rushing yards, so total team rushing yards. Now, Dave said that the Saints give up a lot of yards on the ground, but that doesn't always mean the Steelers are capable of doing the job. So I actually set this line at 99.5. And some people might say this is easy money, and that's fine. I have an idea where I want to go with this, but I'll throw it to you first, Dave.
Well, what are they averaging, Jeff?
The Steelers
Yes.
they're not over 100.
They are not averaging over 100. They're averaging 94.9. But they did run for 144 yards against the Eagles. And that was a game they were behind a bunch.
Kenny
so
Pickett also had a crap ton of yards in that game too.
Yeah, and they then everything was wide open in the fourth quarter for them to just run. You know what? Go West. Over.
All right, Brian, what do you think?
It's got to be over. These guys really stink at stopping the run. And I've seen with the Steelers the past couple of years, if somebody stinks at something, don't take the over, because it's just like sacks. This team, they're on their 7th stringer on the offensive line. And so the Steelers are going to rack up 8 sacks and they get 1. So I keep on wanting to go opposite here, but it's hard to. You got to think with a week off that there's been some tinkering. And you got to think that Najee Harris is hearing it. And you got to think that they're also putting stuff into play for Jaylen Warren. So I got to go over. I might be wrong, but oh, God, I hate this game.
You know what? I would like to see the Steelers bust one nice, 40-yard run.
Yeah.
And I could see it, some people say, oh, well, Jaylen Warren's not getting first team reps. Yeah, things aren't going to be that. They weren't really changing up much in practice, but that doesn't mean that they won't still give him maybe a few more opportunities they have been. I wouldn't be shocked to see I'd see someone like him just bust out a 40-yard run, and that will go a long way for something like that.
Yeah, I hope it'd be Najee just to shut some people up, but still, I'm going to go over. And I think that the kicker here is Kenny Pickett. I can see more designed quarterback runs coming off of the bye to kind of some RPO type stuff. I could see Pickett using his legs by design more than just because he has to out of necessity. So I think that might push this team over the 100 mark. So I'm going to go with the over. All right, last one here. And this is under the assumption that Trent Jordan is back in the lineup. And that's Pittsburgh Steelers sacks. 4. 4 is the number. And so you could push this if you want. Dave, what do you think?
Well,
they get sacked a lot.
Now, they had gone 3 games where they weren't sacked, 2 or 3 games, and then Baltimore just crushed them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go. I know it means that I'm probably going to lose it, but I'm going to push because I think the Steelers will get some sacks. But I don't know how many, what percentage of plays they'll want to run Trent Jordan out there on the field. I think he'll play, but they might ease him into it a little bit more. I think that will help a lot, but I think 4 is a great number, so I'll push.
All right, Brian.
I'm going to go under. I just don't really know. I mean, it's just they should. Just like I was talking about earlier, and somebody in the live chat said, wow, 2022 is really damaged bad. Yes, it has. Because now I'm short-circuiting. What should happen never happens, except for them losing. All I can say is I got to go under. I could see them getting 3.
For me, I'm going to go over. And the reason why I'm going over is that I think this will be TJ Watt's first regular season game in Pittsburgh this year. And if you recall last season, week 1, everyone said they're going to have to ease TJ into it because he didn't play in the preseason.
Oh, and he went nuts.
And he went he's like a man on fire. Now, I don't think he'll play that much, but when he's in there, I mean, if you think that for a second he's not just chomping at the bit to make a play, the dude's if he's not going to make a play, he's going to be making a play for someone else. And that's by drawing attention. I could see Cam getting 1, maybe even 2. I could see Highsmith getting a couple. So I think I'm taking the over. I think it's going to be around 5 or 6. I think they're going to get to the quarterback a good bit. And that's if TJ Watt plays. If they keep him out another week, that changes everything. I would be way off.
Well, this is I think this might be the first time this year where one of us is guaranteed to get this right, but only one of us.
That's true. We all went a different way with this. I like it. Did you get all 6, Brian?
I did. I'm going to ask you when we get off about the passing yards, and we'll remind me to do that.
224.5.
Okay, we don't have to wait.
Yay.
All right, so those that are on the audio side, we're going to pause for a quick break from our sponsors. Those that are watching live on YouTube or Facebook, we'll be back in just a second. All right, Steeler fans, welcome back. And we are here to talk about, well, more gambling, I guess. Spread and prediction time. The line has moved a little bit since the opening line of 2.5. Dave, what are you seeing right now from DraftKings Sportsbook?
Yeah, I just refreshed it to where it is what you posted on Twitter. It is still 1.5.
Okay.
It was
Steelers
2.5.
home dogs.
They're home underdogs, 1.5. I would not be surprised if this moves before kickoff if there is an activation of one Trent Jordan Watt. I would not be surprised if this goes down to 1. Have you ever seen a half point spread? I don't know that I've ever seen a 0.5.
It would go to a pick 'em, if anything.
It would probably go to a pick 'em. That it could do that, especially if Lattimore's out, if Landry's out, some of those other things with the Steelers with the Saints, I think could do it. But yeah, it's 1.5 underdogs. The over under is 40.
Okay. All right, so let's do our predictions. Bryan, we're going to start with you, and let's see what's your score prediction? How do you see this game shaking out?
So what? I get burned every time I do this. Not going to worry about that. Steelers going to win this game, and they got to be north of 30. I know that's crazy. They haven't been
30.
30.
30.
Did you say 30?
Playoffs?
Yeah.
You're talking about playoffs?
I am
30 points. Oh my gosh.
My microphone is too expensive to drop, but 30, it's got to happen. So here's why it's got to happen. You've got to break out of this. You have to turn a corner. If you're going to turn a corner, it's only going to really happen this week. This game, we've heard Dave's shows this week. We've heard Jeff's shows. This is the week that I think the season hinges on this week. And you've got to, if you're going to have an opportunity, it might be against the depleted Saints. I'm going to talk more about Kenny Pickett later, but Kenny Pickett's got to shine. You've got to have that redemption game somewhere, and this is the perfect place for it. Pittsburgh Steelers, 30. I'm not even going over. I'm going to go, 31. I said it. Yeah, I said it. 31. New Orleans Saints, 27.
Oh, wow. High scoring affair. Wow. Okay.
He's taking the over.
Yes, he is. Hard. Dave, what do you think?
I think that the Steelers getting back on track is not all about – this is not the Benjamin Todd Roethlisberger era. This is not that he can do things and they're just kind of slow, and all of a sudden the switch goes on and it all starts to go right. That's not what I expect from this offense. I still expect improvement, but I don't think it's going to be a bunch all because of a bye week. But I still think that the Steelers can improve enough that the defense can step up even more with the players they're getting back. I'm going to this game, so I have the high expectations. I am going where the Pittsburgh Steelers offense, it's all offense. All offensive points, where the offense is going to score more than 20 points this week. I had the final score of 23-13 Steelers.
Oh, okay. All right. As for me, I think we know who I'm going to pick, but how they get there is a different story. I think the Steelers offense does find a way. I pray that it just looks different somehow. I'm not saying that it's vastly different, but it's just not the same old. I think they score enough points. I think they find their way into the end zone. I think they maybe worked a little bit over the bye week on some red zone stuff and trying to figure out what might work in certain situations. I'm going to go Steelers 23, Saints 17. Saints have the ball to finish the game. A little bit of stress, a little bit of drama with a chance to win it, but the Steelers defense makes a stand. 23-17, and that is a push with the over-under set at 40. So there you go. So we all have them winning in different ways. Go ahead, Dave. Do you have to say something?
I was just going to say, when it comes to Bryan and his score, I could see the Steelers doing that if they get a defense or special teams touchdown to get there. So but to me, the reason I'm not quite ready to go over 30 yet is because I think the offense would have to improve and they need that little bit of help or set up multiple times because, even setting them up doesn't mean it's a 7. So for those who are like, oh, man, 30 points back. No, they could get there. I mean, and to see the defense turn around and make a play and end up scoring points would not surprise me.
Very good. There you go. There's our predictions. And now it's time for trivia. Or Dave, you have something else?
I think I have someone who says, see me at the game. James Tresvant in the live chat.
Yes.
Hey, 122. I'm in section 122, row Q. The 122 crew in row Q. That's where I will be. Look for me. I will probably be the largest human being that's not actually on the football field.
Hey, and ask James, if you see James, ask him a question if he's related to Ralph Tresvant. Of course.
Because you need a man with sensitivity. Yeah. Yes.
There you go. And I believe wasn't Ralph in New Edition?
Yes, he was.
So maybe James has partied with Bobby Brown in the game.
Yeah.
Let's
Bobby
find
DeVoe.
There you go.
Johnny Gill.
You are speaking a different language. All right, let's go.
You don't know the group New Edition?
Come on, Jeff. Come
no.
on. No. Cool it now, Jeff.
Ooh, watch out.
It's born in 1983. All right, trivia.
Come on.
Bryan, you have your trivia. Let's go for it.
Yes, I do. So this gentleman that I'm going to talk about today was a Super Bowl champion with the Steelers, ended up with the New Orleans Saints, and on what I believe was their very first Monday Night Football game in their history at home.
Meaning the Saints?
Yes, the Saints.
Okay, making sure.
In 1984, shocked the Pittsburgh Steelers with a win courtesy of this former Steelers 47-yard interception return of, he's in our live chat, Mark Malone. Who is he? And he's a dirty player.
Y'all know that this is.
Was he drafted by the Steelers, you said? Or
yes, he was. He's a 5th-round draft pick of the Steelers, Super Bowl champion.
5th-round draft pick.
He won 2 rings with the Steelers. He even made the McDonald's glasses. He was on the 1979 set, the Super Bowl set after Super Bowl 14. He was on the glasses.
It's all you, Dave. Go for it.
What position was he? You said defense. You said he was a dirty player. That wasn't implying that it was the guy whose first name was Dirt, was it?
His first name's Dennis.
Okay. Or his nickname was Dirt.
It could be. Keep on.
Oh, what's his name?
He's not related to Jameis.
Oh, so Dirt Winston?
Dennis Dirt Winston.
Yeah. Okay.
And he was not a dirty player, but
okay, because you said he was a dirty player, and then I'm like, I remember them having a guy that, looking at past drafts, his name was Dirt. I'm like, okay.
I had to throw that in there.
That's, if you wouldn't have said that, no way would I've got that.
No, a clean player, a quality man, good guy, burnt the Steelers and burnt them in a big way in 1984.
Wow.
All right, well, just real quick, I'm trying to think of Steelers that have gone to the Saints. Keenan Lewis comes to mind.
Yes.
I can't think of many others. Lance Moore is a connection because Lance Moore.
That was the other way around.
Right. Is there
okay.
Of the modern era.
Bryan's second trivia question. He's not a legend, but this great Steelers defensive back of the 1990s ended his career with the New Orleans Saints. Also, this great, not a legend, wide receiver from the 80s ended his career in the early 90s with the New Orleans Saints. Who are they?
I'm regretting asking my question.
These are in your wheelhouse, Jeff. These are, one of these was probably one of your
guys. I know one of them because I was just about ready to say it.
All right.
When Jeff asked.
Say it.
I know the receiver.
I know you know the receiver.
Who is it?
He's from Louisiana.
Well, it's because it was the answer to a question you asked last week of my what was it? My first favorite player or whatever it was. Yeah, it's Louis Lips.
Oh, Louis Lips.
He finished. What did he play? What, 1 season, 2 seasons in New Orleans?
He ended up really one and not
Okay,
doing
I couldn't remember. I have no idea who the defensive guy is. I'm trying to think.
Thomas Riley guesses Darren Perry.
Thomas Riley. Come on, man. You're correct.
Woo! Yay! Woohoo! Good job,
Darren
Thomas
Perry,
Riley.
Yeah. Number
You could add
39.
you could add that he coached the Steelers.
Yes, he did coach the Steelers, but that would have been too easy.
Nah. But can we think of any other players in the modern era that have gone to New Orleans? I can't think of anyone other than Keenan Lewis.
But you don't consider those the modern era?
No, not really. I'm talking about like
1990s?
Bryan, it's
No,
2022.
Bryan, that's you go back 25 years and you're catching the very end of the 90s.
Wow. I guess
25
you're right.
years.
Wow.
That's how old you are,
2022.
Bryan.
That's what I'm trying to say. Like for the
No,
people that
because,
are
no, think about this. Think about this. When I was growing up in the my wife just mentioned this to me, I think last week. When we were growing up in the 90s, it seemed like the 70s was so retro because it was 20 years ago and before our time. 20 years ago now is still after 2000. That's crazy.
There's got to be a few though. There's got to be a couple.
Yeah. I don't know if there was of any that were, I would say Keenan Lewis was probably the most significant because what was he a third or fourth round draft pick, something like that?
I can't
He
remember.
he was I believe a 5th round.
Okay, maybe.
Because either 3rd or 5th. I mixed that up with Joe Burnett from that
Burnett,
that
I
Mike
remember
Wallace
him.
draft.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Dave, your turn.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. A lot has been made this week, in case you didn't catch this, that the Pittsburgh Steelers, I forgot what I was saying, that the Pittsburgh Steelers are playing the New Orleans Saints, and it is other than the Steelers themselves, this is the only NFL team that Mike Tomlin does not have a victory against, is the New Orleans Saints. Obviously, like I said, other than the Pittsburgh Steelers. Who was the last team that they crossed off the list of a team that Tomlin had not beaten before? So he's got a chance to get to 31 on Sunday. Who was 30 and when was it?
It's not them.
When did he do this? Was it this season?
No, I didn't say that. That was the
okay.
question. When was it and who was it?
Was it last year?
It was last year.
Was it week 1?
Beating the Buffalo Bills?
Oh, no, it wasn't. No, okay, it was last year. So I was thinking 2 years ago. I was going to guess the Giants. So it was last year.
It was last year.
I'm trying to think who they were paired up with.
I got it.
Go for it.
Chicago Bears.
It was
That
the
was my
Chicago
guess.
Bears in week 8. Once
There
I
you
said
go.
it was last year, that made it a little bit easier.
Yeah, I would have
Yeah.
never gotten it without
That was team number 30 of NFL teams for Mike Tomlin to defeat, and the Saints can then this coming week they can be team 31 if the Steelers are victorious. So now here's the big question: what teams in the NFL has Mike Tomlin never been defeated by? And I'll tell you, other than the Steelers, of course, because you can't, well, you could make arguments that the Steelers do beat themselves more than, in years past. Anyway, I'll tell you, there's 4 teams where Tomlin has never lost to them.
Well,
He's never as head coach of the Steelers.
I can give you 2 right away.
Okay.
Tampa Bay, is that one that you had, Bryan? Has he ever lost to Tampa Bay? Oh yeah, he did.
I was there.
The Glennon game. My bad. Okay, now I got to really think. I thought this was going to be simple. Bryan, go ahead and say yours so that you know.
Well, they've got a huge winning streak over Atlanta. So Atlanta's got to be one of them. And
that is correct. The Atlanta Falcons. Mike Tomlin is 3-0 against the Falcons.
And in their history, they have only lost once to the Carolina Panthers, and that was in 1996, their first game. And then I believe they've won 7 straight. So and that was, like I said, 1996. So it's got to be the Panthers.
Carolina Panthers is team number 2. They are 3-0 against the Panthers under Mike Tomlin.
One that you would think, I was almost going to say the Colts, but they did lose to the Colts.
Peyton Manning did it at Heinz Field.
in 2008.
Yeah.
It's not Houston, because they did lose to Houston in that 2013 season to start. So you would think it could be one of those.
So you got Atlanta and Carolina. 2 more.
Detroit.
Let's go give you a hint and say one of them. I said loss.
Tie,
I didn't say tie. One of them is the Detroit Lions. They've played them 4 times, and the Steelers are 3-0-1.
And I would assume that it would be somewhere in that division. You know what? I'm going to go a little crazy. No, it can't be the Giants, because they lost in 2008 to the Giants.
James Harrison snap that goes out of the end zone for
I was there. Damn it, I was there. It's not the Cowboys, because of that crazy game back in 2016
when Cam Hayward got hurt. That's what I remember about that game.
Washington in 2020 obviously ended the streak, so it wasn't them.
So we know it's not Tampa. I'm looking at that division. Who am I missing? Oh, New Orleans. I know he's never beaten them. So that division's done. So it looks like it's an AFC team. No, wait. Arizona. Have they lost? I don't think they've ever lost.
Yeah, I think it's
no. He lost to Arizona in 2007, if I'm not mistaken.
The Steelers have played the Arizona Cardinals 5 times under Mike Tomlin. The Steelers are 4-1.
Yes, because they lost his very first year.
Mm-hmm.
Have they lost to the Rams?
I don't think they've lost to the Rams under Mike.
And Jefferson Hartman would be correct.
Nice.
Finish it off with the Los Angeles / St. Louis Rams.
Finishing out the NFC West.
Yes. So that's it. So Falcons, Panthers, Lions, Rams, and the Steelers have 2 of those 4 still on the schedule this year. So I just thought that was interesting. And someone meant, and you all had said about the Colts, they've played the Colts 8 times and they're 7-1 against them under Mike Tomlin. That's one of their better records.
In history, they're very good against
and I was including postseason.
Yeah.
This includes postseason.
No, they're tremendous against the Colts in their history.
Yeah, and there's only one team that has double-digit wins against the Steelers, against Mike Tomlin.
I would have to say,
Baltimore.
I would probably say Baltimore, because
Baltimore. They have 15 wins over the Steelers. This includes playoffs, but they're still Baltimore's only 15-18. The Steelers still hold the advantage there. So, and in case you're wondering, New England only has 9 wins in 12 games. Under since Mike Tomlin. But man, you get to like Cleveland, Cincinnati, they've played them like 32 times each, and they have like 7 and 8 wins. So crazy stuff there. Go ahead. I've said more than enough.
All right, let's do final thoughts. Bryan, we'll start with you.
So we're looking at a new beginning, and that's what we're hoping for the 2022 season. Because look, I've talked about this. It's hard to cheer for them to lose. So my thing right now is cheer for a very high 2nd round pick and let the Bears lose all of their games, because I'd love a top pick, but I don't want to watch them lose. That's not what I'm invested in. But what they really need to look at right now is the fact that Kenny Pickett needs to get started. And it's not just to keep it. I firmly think that he has a job next year. I think no matter what happens the rest of the season, I feel like they are going to stick with him. He's going to have his job. But for Kenny Pickett alone, not for the fans, not for the team, I feel like he needs to get that first win under his belt. Now, technically, he has a win, because we do it differently in the NFL. But it would be hard to say that Tampa Bay win against Tampa Bay wasn't Mitch Trubisky's. I would have liked to think that he could have pulled it out, and I think he would have won that game. But I want to see him start to finish be the leader of a game, and for you to feel like there is some traction. And that's why this is going to be Kenny Pickett's week. I think the heart that beats in that chest I think it's fantastic. I think this man's a leader, but we definitely need to start seeing it on the field, yes, but Kenny Pickett needs to start seeing it. And when Kenny Pickett sees it, he is going to be so much better. So, yay, Kenny Pickett. Have a great week. I'm already calling it dude of the week next week for Kenny Pickett. I do want to say one last thing. This is we talk all the time about our live chat. And when we have losing streaks, we get hot on the collar and some of us get mad. I know sometimes I'll go off. I'm like, man, that guy's driving me nuts today. But we're a family too. And we have somebody in here that is a family member. And he's not a family member of any of ours, but he's a BTSC family member, which you all are. Whether you annoy us or not, whether I annoy you or not, we're linked with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I want to throw out something to Captain Underpants. He sent messages to us. He has had some stuff with the family. His father-in-law is ailing, and I just want to send my thoughts and prayers out to him. Each and every one of you. If you want to reach out, you have our email addresses. You have mine. Hey, we might be Steeler fans. We might disagree on some stuff, but we're people, and that's a bigger team to me. So thank you for keeping us in your speakers, and thank you for keeping us in your hearts, and you're in ours. So thank you.
All right, Dave, final thoughts?
Thank you for saying something about that, Bryan, because I was going to say something about that because I saw that earlier in the live chat. So, yeah, we're with you, Captain Underpants. I know you said it was father-in-law and father, I think is what you're saying is going on. So a lot of people reached out to you through the live chat as well. Ooh, man, I'm ready to get back to the stadium. I'm ready to be around other Steeler fans. Yes, there's tons of reasons why fans could really be down on this team. Fans could be down on this team. They haven't come through. The offense looks anemic. The defense seems to, between injuries and everything else, still seems to be finding themselves. But you can continue to just say, I'm going to sit back and wallow in my misery. Or you could say, you know what? Let's see what they can bring this week. Let's see what's on the horizon, what's on the agenda, what's happening. And that's what I'm excited about. Yes, it was a game that wasn't really all that close against the Eagles. Is the last thing that we had is the taste in our mouth. I'm ready to take a bite out of a new opponent. I'm ready to get that as what's kind of left is the taste in your mouth after this one. And like I said, to start off the show, I'm excited to have the Steelers facing a team that first time since week 4 that doesn't have a winning record when they're facing the Steelers. Yet the Steelers are still underdogs. So it's not like they're going to play down to their opponent that some fans are worried about. This is a chance for the Steelers to actually have a good matchup to where they can show what kind of team they are. Are you going to make do the small things and the ins and outs? Are you going to make the big plays when given the opportunity in order to do enough to bring home the victory? I'm just excited to see it. I want to see if there was growth over the last 2 weeks. I'm just excited. Can't wait to be there.
All right, and we will be back. Actually, Bryan and I will be back on the post-game show after the 1 o'clock kickoff. Dave will be on his way back from Pittsburgh, hopefully, and we will be back next week to get you geared up for a 4:25 kickoff game against the Bengals in Pittsburgh. So be on the lookout for that. In the meantime, Dave, why don't you send us out?
Hey,
we'll see you next week on another Steelers preview. Take it easy.
everybody else gets a little tight,